Hey everybody, I'm Cheryl from Movieguide, and we're here in Washington, D.C. in our nation's capital for the red carpet movie premiere of The American Miracle. Come on, let's go talk to the cast and crew. You star as the young Thomas Jefferson. What would you like us to know about him?
Well, slightly older Thomas Jefferson. But, I've worked with Tim Mahoney before. My first documentary that I ever did was with him about 10 years ago. We did a documentary on proving the Exodus happened, proof of evidence, and I love it. And I think since then I've done a dozen other documentaries because I love doing them. So this one was important to me just because of the fact of what we're doing in our public schools and what we're doing in our universities, that we're forgetting about how this country founded. It was founded by godly men. It's founded by men of faith, men that believed that men should be free, and they knew they were committing treason. They did, against King George. They knew that they would have been hung if this little American miracle didn't happen.
You've been in the industry a very long time, and your faith has always guided you in the projects that you choose. Why is your faith so important to you personally, and it comes out in your professional life?
Well, I think it's because it's always been with me. I grew up that way, and I got to give kudos to my parents because it was sort of bred into us as children, going to church all the time and being part of the community that way. And I grew up in a small little town of Minnesota, and church was really a big part of everybody's life where I grew up in a small town. So it's always just been there.
He just really loves the truth, and he can't tell a lie, kind of like George Washington.
Even though I played Thomas Jefferson. But I did play George Washington in another movie, and I played Abe Lincoln. So I'm trying to do every president, But I can't do blackface, so I won't be able to do Obama, unfortunately.
For you personally, what would you say is what you love most about America?
The chance that everybody, really, the American dream is still real as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I grew up in a small little town, fourth of five kids. We didn't have any money growing up. My dad was a school teacher, anguishing over the bill at the end of every month, telling all four boys, can't you drink more water instead of so much milk? And they taught us that you can reach for those stars, as corny as that sounds. I believed in the dream. I fell in love with acting when I was 11. Told my parents at 11 I'm going to be an actor. My mom said, that's nice, dear. Maybe they thought it was a phase, but I always knew I wanted to do this. And it was really the first faith-based movie I did was called What If with Dallas Jenkins. And that movie, in my mind, was the movie God put me in to put me down this road I'm on right now.
You star as the elder Thomas Jefferson. He was one of the most influential founding fathers. What do you want us to know about him?
What a great man, and what a principled man, and what a brilliant man. I mean, he had to argue with John Adams and others when they had the opportunity for what we call the American miracle, to double the size of the United States in one decision. John Adams did not want, we don't need any more land, we're big enough. But he, in the script, now Kevin Sorbo plays him as a younger man, he gets to talk about this part, but he says, it is several million acres, and I've priced it at about 10 cents an acre. Why would we not want, this is a bargain. I mean, he was practical, but more than that, he knew that and sensed that America was meant to be great, and he wanted it to be big and great, and he managed it when he was president. So to be called on to play him has been one of the great honors of my life, really.
You have been in the industry for 7 decades, and we love everything that you do, and your faith is really important to you. And at Movieguide, we're all about faith and family. How important is what Movieguide does and what you do for our culture and our world?
I feel it's absolutely essential, just like vitamin C, maybe, or pick any other great nutrient, is to our overall health. We need to be aware of who we are. Where did we come from? What were the motives? What was the influence? What is it that drove our founders? It was the Bible. It was God wanting to be a new Israel, like the former Israel. And I just feel that this is something that we all need very much. We need to know, how did we get here? Who did it? Why?
Star is Abigail Adams. What do you want us to know about her?
Oh, I would like everyone to know what a genius Abigail Adams was. She really was considered one of the founding fathers in that she was, her views were taken so seriously by her husband, and many of them were implemented into his policies. And so I love when people can really understand that she was truly an American hero.
I loved watching you in I Heard the Bells.
Thank
You did a
you.
great job.
Thank you.
So what can we learn here in the present about these strong women that you've been playing from the past?
I love that question so much. I have been so fortunate to play two very strong but very humble women who love the Lord and were very settled in their identity as wives of great men. And they took that responsibility seriously in their in the way that they not only served their husbands but also influenced the work that shaped our countries in two very, very tumultuous time periods. So I was really blessed to play Fanny Longfellow, who shaped some of the ideas coming from her husband in the Civil War period, and then of course Abigail Adams, who is a founding father, you know. And so I think we can, as women, just look to them, look to the past, and see that they took their role and didn't try to step outside of it. They knew that the role that they had been given by the Lord was important enough, and they made a lot of progress and influence just by being right where they were planted.
What do
That's
you
all we have for today. I'm sorry.
Last question.
I'm
What
sorry.
do you
We
love
need to keep
personally
going.
about America?
Oh, I love the diversity. I really do. I just love that it truly is a melting pot, and everywhere you
Yes,
look,
I know.
you're surrounded by multiple cultures right here in our home culture.
Thank you.
Well, Nicole, you are Mumbet in today's movie.
Tell us about your character.
Well, my character is Medved, or her name, she had her name changed to Elizabeth Freeman. And she was a slave in the 1700s, and she petitioned the courts for her freedom. She had heard about the Declaration of Independence. She had heard about the Constitution that had been ratified in Massachusetts. And she kept hearing the same phrase over and over again, that all men are created equal and independent of each other. And even though she couldn't read, she could retain. And so she went to a lawyer and she asked him the question. She said, you know, you had a hand in the Sheffield Resolves, and I heard you say all men are created equal. She asked the question, does that mean me? Am I all mankind? And he had a softened heart, and he took her case and he said, yes, you are all mankind. And they took it to court. And here you have this African-American slave who stood before a white judge, a white jury, with a white lawyer, and they granted her freedom in 1781. And so because she made that request, she was given her freedom. And 2 years later, in 1783, all the slaves in Massachusetts were free because she dared to ask. And so from her character, I've been so inspired and at the same time, probably a little convicted by how many things are out there that God had my name on that I've been too afraid to ask for or take advantage of. And so from her story, I've gained new courage to step forward and say, if she could do it, so can I.
What would you say to someone who would say America is not good and tearing down statues and dividing our country, our nation? What would you say to them?
They're misguided. You know, no disrespect intended, but you're misguided because our nation was founded upon biblical principles. It doesn't mean everything in our nation is right or everybody in our nation is right, but the foundations of what they built it upon, it was higher than themselves. Even if they themselves weren't walking in alignment with everything, the foundation of what they had settled is correct. And because of that foundation, because of the foundation of the Declaration of Independence, people like Medved, people like Elizabeth Freeman were able to say, based on this basis of what you said, can I not have mine? And it was granted to her. And then subsequently, as an African American, the rest of the slaves in 1865 were free because we had a foundation that was built upon God, built upon godly principles, and built upon the Declaration of Independence.
She has quite a story. Tell us a little bit about her.
Yeah, so Hannah Ashley she's married to a lawyer, and she's a slave owner. And unfortunately, I think she's a bit bipolar, and she explodes in the film, but I won't say anything else. I can't give it away. You got to see the film.
So playing this character, did it make you think a little bit deeper about people from the past and things that they had to deal with?
Absolutely. I mean the whole like the slave trade and all that. It's just like I can't imagine owning a person. And so like that coverage of all of that was just like really and basically playing a villain, you know, and that but it was okay apparently back then. So I was it took a bit of digging to get there. And of course, you know, Nicole, you have met Nicole. She is my slave in the film, and she's the most precious person ever. So I was like, cool, this is not easy. But I'm an actor. That's what we do.
Exactly. You do it so well in this film. What would you say is your favorite thing about America?
America, our freedom. And we are a God-centered country, and I hope we keep that, the freedom and God-centered, because that is that is the most important thing.
Tell us how this movie affected you.
Well, it affected me in many different ways because, for one, it was a great awakening of my history lessons from school. And what I love about that is that it reminded me of things that we tend to forget. We forget the providential hope that God put upon America. And it was never, I don't think it was ever actually really explained to me like that in school either. So this is fantastic. You know, Michael's book is a tremendous book, and now it's been brought to the screen in a tremendous way. Tim Mahoney has been just fantastic to work with. I was a fan of his before. Thankfully, he was a fan of, I guess, some of the stuff I'd done in the past, which is mainly voiceover work, but very blessed to be a part of it.
How important is it for us to have our history books come to life in movies so the next generation knows true American history?
Well, in a day and age where everybody lives and dies by what they see on their smartphones and they're always looking down and watching, I think this is a beautiful way of kind of taking history in a way that we understand, all the old folks like me, and then I can sit there and watch this with my daughter, or families can come together and learn, but it's also entertaining, it's insightful, and it's impactful. It's actually very emotional at times too, so it's really important.
What is your favorite thing about America?
My favorite thing about America, my goodness, the freedom we have every time. So I do a lot of Comic-Cons because I'm the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Fred Flintstone and many other characters in my world as a voice actor. And I go to these Comic-Cons and I meet beautiful men and women of the military. And those are the folks that I just love getting to shake their hand and say thank you for keeping us safe and giving us these freedoms. So it's really important.
Historically, Mary Ball Washington is not portrayed in a very positive light. And my theory on that is because she was worried and, you know, she wanted to control her son, but in a way that to protect him as a mother would. And she was just very, very worried. And, you know, as mothers, they can see the big picture. And if you do this, I may not see you again. So it was genuine concern. But he believed in what he was doing. And if he hadn't, we wouldn't be here today.
Faith was important to her and instilling it in her son. Talk about that.
Absolutely. He let the Lord guide all of his decisions. And I think that showed when he was, you know, even the ranks below him, he led by example. And I think that his troops followed his lead.
What is your favorite thing about America?
What is my favorite thing about America? My favorite thing about America is that I get to live in it. This is where I was born and this is where I was raised, and we live in a great country, and we are just very blessed to be here.
All right, Tim, the movie is called The American Miracle. Our Nation is No Accident. I love that. Explain that.
Well, a lot of people don't really know the story about America. And when we look at how the founders decided to look to, they were disappointed in what was happening with the King of England. And they saw that there was a power higher than the king, and that power was God. And this film is a miracle in many ways because it's telling the story of this miraculous little group of people that actually decided to stand up for their rights against the King of England and this enormous empire with the greatest, mighty army and navy in the world, and they came away winners. And the film American Miracle tells that story and explains all these miraculous things that shouldn't have happened in favor of George Washington and the Continental Army.
This is the perfect time for the movie to come out. We're getting ready to celebrate our 250th birthday next year. This movie for this time.
I think this is a perfect time for that to happen. We're going to be celebrating 250 years of this independence, and the Constitution is what holds us all together. It's what constitutes us, as Robert George tells us in the movie. But what's important about that is that there are times when we failed to follow the rules of it, but that doesn't mean that the nation was a bad nation. It just means that we weren't following the rules of the Constitution. So,
what would you say to someone who would argue that America is not founded on faith?
I would say that if you look at the founders and their testimonies, we'll see that there is a definite faith component in them.
What's your favorite thing about America?
I think the fact that it's based on the Constitution, and that shows us what our rights are.
Why this movie at this time in our nation's history?
There's a lot of misrepresentation of American history. So it's very important that we tell not the untold story, but the forgotten story. The story has been told. There's nothing inaccurate about the story. It's very factual. It's historically correct. So especially as we're looking at our 250th anniversary next year, it's very important for us to retell this story and to inspire Americans with how we got here and maybe the responsibility that places on them going forward.
What is your favorite thing about America?
Oh boy, that's so difficult to answer. It's difficult in the sense that both Sylvia and I are the children of immigrants. Our parents came over from Latvia during World War II. So America opened its arms and welcomed our family here for a fact that we are eternally grateful for. So it's so inspiring to be able to tell this story as an immigrant about these wonderful freedoms that we have and how we got them.
How important is what Movieguide does for our culture and also in society?
Movieguide has become one of the most important voices for movies as far as families are concerned. People are not always sure what movies they can take their children, their elderly members of their family to. What Ted Baer has done with Movieguide is nothing short of revolutionary, and especially the Movieguide Awards, and how those now are being televised, and how Hollywood is taking note of all of that. It's just magnificent. It's an irreplaceable part of the movie world.
So, Dr. Carson, you are a renowned neurosurgeon and the former U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Why is it so important to you to be here tonight?
Because I think this is part of the beginning of the great third awakening in our country. And there's no way that we could have had the success that we had without some divine intervention. But there are those who want to wipe out all references to God. And this is fighting back against it.
How important is it to teach our next generation what true American history is?
I think it's absolutely crucial because we need to teach them everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But an honest appraisal will show you that there's a lot more good than there is bad and ugly. We have people who seize upon the bad and ugly and try to make it seem like that's our foundation. That is not our foundation. And they say, but you had slavery. Well, anybody who knows anything about history knows that every society has dealt with slavery. And the thing that made us unique is that we had so many people adamantly opposed to it that we fought a bloody civil war and lost a large part of our population to get rid of it.
What would you say is your favorite thing? What do you love about America?
I would say the freedom of religion. Freedom to believe what you want to believe, as long as it's not interfering with somebody else. And that is the key to a free society.
Here at Movieguide, we're all about entertainment that inspires with not just earthly benefit, but eternal. How important is what we do in the industry and in culture?
Well, there are those who want to change our culture. If you look at the congressional record from January the 10th, 1963, Congressman Herlong of Florida read into it the 45 Goals of Communism. And it's just the things that we see going on in our country right now. They couldn't overcome us militarily, so they want to destroy us from within. And we've got to be smart enough to understand that and move in our own direction.
Your New York Times best-selling book is now made into a movie. How exciting is tonight for you?
Well, it's wonderful. What's exciting to me, even more exciting than tonight, was to see the film for the first time and to see what a good and respectful and America-loving job Tim Mahoney did in bringing this to the screen. And the whole idea is to try to encourage more gratitude and less grievance on the part of the American public. And to make it clear, as some of these stories do, that even people who have great bitter rivalries and polarization can come together for sake of building this greatest nation ever.
How important is it to know true American history and pass it down to our next generation?
It's crucial. And by the way, it's crucial not just for the success of the country, it's crucial for leading a happy life. There's an interesting book I had the author of my radio show, Frank Boone, who wrote a book called The Age of Grievance. And that idea that Americans love to complain in 2025, we don't have anything to complain about. What we have to do is to look forward to a future and to live up to our founders who agreed on that point. One of the things that's amazing to me is George Washington in his first inaugural address, first president, first inaugural address, he thanked the invisible hand which has guided America to independence and success, prosperity, and power. Now, I thought for a while I would call this book The Invisible Hand, but then that sounds like a horror movie. We have enough of those.
Thanks for watching Movie Guide, and for more encouraging content, like and subscribe right now.